Reckless mismanagement, squandermania, and wanton misuse and abuse of public funds under Foster Cummings. There was reckless mismanagement, squandermania, and wanton misuse and abuse of public funds at the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service during the tenure of former Minister Foster Cummings, now a PNM Senator and the newly re-elected PNM General Secretary. This was stated by Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs Philip Watts, who revealed yesterday that Cummings hired 61 persons, many well-known PNM affiliates, on short-term contracts between the period January to April of this year, without proper process. Contributing to the motion to adopt the report of the Standing Finance Committee in the House of Representatives, Watts, who defeated Cummings in the constituency of La Horquetta Talparo, said there was a glaring pattern of misuse of public funds for partisan gain, masquerading as governance. He said he has referred the file to the Attorney General. Under fire, opposition Senator Foster Cummings. He said Cummings usurped the authority of the accounting officer, the permanent secretary, the person who should hire in the hiring process since the minister is not empowered to hire anyone. Said Watts, at the then Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, there was a surge in short-term hiring from January 2025 right up to the eve of the general election. The former minister was busy doling out short-term contracts to a parade of PNM party faithfuls and political operatives in the thick of the general election campaign. This is the sweeping that he was engaged in, he said, referring to the well-known PNM song Sweeping Time. Mr. Speaker, the facts are damning. The following are just a few of the PNM officials who were shamelessly recruited and remunerated with taxpayers' dollars. 61 of them. And what the accounting officer in the ministry told me when I started to go through this file is that most of them will not qualify for the position for which they were hired. And should I call names? He asked. As his colleagues urged him to do so, Watts said, Mr. Anthony Garcia, former Minister of Education, appointed as Technical Advisor Youth Training at a cost of $23,600 per month. Mr. Kwesi Robinson, former chairman of the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation and known PNM social media officer on the outgoing PNM executive, employed at $22,000 a month. Ms. Laurel Lazama Lee Singh, former PNM senator and PRO of the Central Executive of the PNM, and now the outgoing education officer of the PNM, appointed the program coordinator for youth in business at $22,000 a month. But what is interesting, Mr. Speaker, I was also told by the accounting officer that they never saw Ms. Laurel Lazama on the job a day. She wouldn't come to work, one of his colleagues quipped. Mr. Speaker, we have another one from my constituency, Raquel Bissoon, a very interesting person, a PNM local government candidate and a youth league member employed as a program coordinator for Community Fresh Vegetable and Produce Shade House at $22,000 a month. We have Endale Young, former PNM Senator, Technical Coordinator, Youth Health and Career Caravan at a cost of $16,000 a month. This, said gentleman, I would have seen a timesheet showing me that he is not coming to work for days. But I saw Rhoda Barath stating that we fired him in the ministry. He technically fired himself because he abandoned the job. We have Mr. Anisha Bish, former PNM San Fernando East PRO and Youth League officer, hired at $22,000 a month. Mr. Clyde Paul, former mayor from Point Fortin, also on the payroll. Mr. Kobe Sandy, an alderman from the Point Fortin Borough Corporation. What we see here is a glaring pattern of the misuse of public funds for partisan gain, masquerading as governance. It is nothing short of disgraceful, Watts said, to loud table thumping. Watts said somehow short-term contracts were awarded for a select few in pursuit of electoral advantage. What is troubling about these contracts is that they were not approved by the accounting officer in the ministry. These short-term contracts issued to PNM officials in the months leading up to the 2025 general election were not approved by the accounting officer in the ministry. It was approved by the former minister. Mr. Speaker, I have taken that file and given it to the Attorney General, Watts said. Watts said, according to the Constitution, the minister's responsibility is to determine policy, whilst the permanent secretary's responsibility is to implement policy and manage the day-to-day operations, including recruitment and hiring. By approving the hiring before the file went to the permanent secretary, the former minister, Watts began. But he was interrupted by Chief Whip Marvin Gonzalez, who rose on a point of order, but House Speaker Jagdeo Singh told Gonzalez that Watts was just laying out the facts. There was no imputation, he stated.